Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we go once again on the mad merry-go-round, which is the best in modern and contemporary jazz available on the planet, courtesy of myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's Jumpin' In, and you might say the calm before the storm. That's right, TT Mayhem is only a week away, and be sure you think once, think twice, think bike, then think, I'm sure that speed limit wasn't here last week, and equally, I'm sure those Germans weren't camping on that little bit of grass. If you're going past the dune, give a wave to the boys from Gruselec who are back on the island already, and it's also festival season. We'll be off to Brussels next week, but fear not, we won't leave you in the lurch. So, H, what has been getting you up to speed this week, and what has taken you to the limit, other than a bit of gardening, obviously?
We won't unless the Belgian beer strikes again. No, better not think about that. Right, short and sweet then. I'll have a bit of Africa, a bit of flamenco, and a bit of big band.
And for me, we take it to 11. We do not like green eggs and ham. Everything goes like clockwork. And to start off, here's the award-winning Newfield Ochapinti Jazz Orchestra with something you don't necessarily want on your breakfast tray. Warm orange. Well, there we are. Warm Orange, taken from the self-titled debut by the Newfield Ochapinti Jazz Orchestra, formed back in 1993 after pianist Paul Newfield and guitarist Michael Ochapinti, who met on their first day at York University in Toronto in 1988. They formed a rehearsal jazz band to help develop their own compositions. Their self-titled first album won a Juno Award, which is the Canadian equivalent of a Grammy, and in the years between 1995 and 2005, the Newfield Ochapinti Jazz Orchestra, or NOJO, which is a much easier term, released 5 albums of bold original music, each one of them getting a Juno Award nomination. The Los Angeles Times called NOJO one of the most imaginative lodge ensembles on the current scene, and the band's music has intrigued such guest soloists as Joe Lovano, who's played with them, trombone virtuoso Ray Anderson, trumpeter and composer Kenny Wheeler, the late great of course, and most notably and regularly clarinetist Don Byron and saxophonist Sam Rithers, both of whom recorded with NOJO. Check out the band or any of their excellent recordings, you won't be disappointed.
Terrific stuff. Great starter as always, albeit warm orange for breakfast is indeed horrible. Nothing worse if you haven't put your orange juice in the fridge. It is Jumping In, Chris and myself, H, with you through until the top of the hour, of course. A bit of Spanish-tinged flamenco. Yeah, we haven't had that for a wee while, have we? Back in the day, it used to be a favourite album of, I think yours, mine, Mr. Kelly, a few others on the Isle of Man, when it used to be John McLaughlin with Paco de Lucia, and I think Larry Coryell was the third, and they did 2 or 3 albums live in San Francisco, or Saturday Night in San Francisco, was it? Several iterations of that came out and used to be very popular, and I think one of them's just been reissued, if memory serves correct. Now from Storyville, we have a tribute to Paco de Lucia, Flamenco Passion. A tribute to Paco de Lucia, as I say, in collaboration with Mikkel Noords and featuring Bjarke Felgren and Matthias Heiser. More tricky names coming up, but in the meantime, we'll have the music. This is a track called The Gambas al Ajillo. Very nice too. Haven't had a bit of flamenco on Jumping In for a while, I don't think. It does definitely remind me, put you straight in mind of course, the great Paco de Lucia, who we loved a few years ago. Sadly, Larry Coryell, can't speak today, Larry Coryell died a year or two back as well. John McLaughlin, I'm happy to say, still with us and performing with Shakti in London this very summer. We're still debating whether to get down. I'm thinking I might just have to go for it and think.
It's midweek. That's the only problem which is bugging both of us.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to see it. But there we go. Very good. It is Flamenco Compassion, or Flamenco Compassion. Yeah, I see how they're doing with it. But Flamenco Passion is the name of the album. I'll have a go at the other names as well. So it's Paul Jacek Knudsen, guitar and handclaps. Mikael Nutso on guitar, Björk Felgren on violin, Matthias Heise on chromatic harmonica, Nikolai Lant bass, and Anders Pedersen on cajon, the one, the drum you sit on, play with your hands very effectively, and percussion as well. 3 soloists of international standing, among the best fusion groups in Scandinavia playing flamenco, and they do have a great heritage when you look back at some of the guys they've played with. Just looking at some of the notes, Mikael Nutse, the guitar player, is listed as being a Danish guitar legend and along with playing with the Flamenco Boys. He plays with his own Mikael Nutse band, also played and recorded with Palle Mikkelborg, Terry Lynn Carrington, George Duke, David Sanborn and Lisa Nilsson, amongst others. And meanwhile, Matthias Heise is one of the world's leading harmonica players and was the chromatic harmonica world champion in 2013. Who'd have known there was such a thing? If you like your flamenco and you like a bit of Paco, check it out. Thanks very much to our friends at Storyville for sending that one.
Yes, thanks very much indeed. And of course, those names always sound convincing when we say them to us, but then you hear them on the BBC
Almost all wrong, I think.
They're pronounced entirely differently. Apologies to any native speakers. We're better on food. Now, next from me, another guitarist. Oh, incidentally, speaking of concerts in London, if you can't make it to Brussels Jazz Weekend, or Brew J Wee as it is, next weekend, then you could make it as far as London, where you'd have a treat in store at the 606 Club, where Trish Clues with her My Irish group are performing with Dave Douglas as a guest of the band, which should certainly be worth seeing. And that's next Saturday night down at the 606 Club in Chelsea, should you find yourself at a loose end. Next from me, a guitarist who we have featured many times on the show, with his unique melding of jazz, rock, funk, and indeed his native Vietnamese music. To me, he's instantly recognisable. From his latest release, Silk and Sand, here's a number which everyone learning to count must have asked about why it didn't exist when they reached 20. Here's Onety-one. With such fluidity in his playing, maestro Nguyen Le has music dripping from his pores, and this latest release will not disappoint fans. The musical tapestry created by Nguyen on his guitars and synths, along with Chris Jennings on bass, and Rana Kriya and many various percussion instruments. Gumbri, which is a 3-stringed hollowed wooden instrument with a skin stretched over it, and a bit of vocals, and it's substituted by additions on Sylvan Baru on Bansari flute and dudek, Miron Rafajic on trumpet and flugelhorn, and Etienne Mbappe, who regularly plays with John McLaughlin on electric bass.
Good stuff. I like a bit of the old Nguyen Le. We never have spoken to him. We've seen him a couple of times. But
I tried to speak to him once at Brecon many years ago.
That's right, but it never quite materialised.
Shooting off to another festival somewhere.
Maybe we should see if we can get a Zoomer with him sometime, although we keep stockpiling these things, not getting them out fast enough. We will get them out at some stage. Steve Tibbetts and more stuff from London. Right, a big band from me coming up next. I don't often do that much on the bigger band thing, but this one I saw quite recently coming through courtesy of Anne Braithwaite at BK Music PR on the Cellar label, a Canadian label, and this is Daniel Herzog, putting, as it's described, a fresh spin on beloved traditional songs and more with his big band. It's the second outing from Daniel. His first one was mostly originals of his, and this one, as we hear, is a retake, and it has in brackets, Open Space is the name of the album, brackets, folk songs reimagined. Let's hear a reimagination of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Daniel Herzog Big Band from the album Open Spaces Folk Songs Reimagined. That album out on June the 23rd. So you've got a couple of weeks to wait yet if you actually like, on via Cellar Music, featuring the 17-piece Daniel Herzog Jazz Orchestra with a few well-known names there. On guitar you've got Kurt Rosenwinkel, Scott Robinson on reeds, and also the great sax player Noel Preminger. Also pianist Frank Karlberg, I'm not quite so familiar with. Cracking sound, really enjoy it. Like I said, the second album he's brought out. He's described as being Vancouver-based and a major new compositional voice in jazz. That's according to All About Jazz. And the album presents his arrangements of songs such as Shenandoah, Red River Valley, Gordon Lightfoot's storytelling hit we just heard there, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, or Bob Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind, which is recomposed as How Many Roads. So if you like that sort of, I think it's a great sound. We're always saying how great the big bands are, and these young cats coming up who are embracing the big band sound. How on earth they get them to work, I've no idea, when you've got so many people and virtually no money, probably, I dare say. Sometimes it's for the love of the music, perhaps, but it's great to hear the big band alive and kicking, and particularly when we do, if you listen on a Friday night and you hear the old Sweet and Swing and you think, the big band is still going. It's, that sound is coming out of the old sort of Dorsey Brothers or Ambrose or Geraldo or Ted Heath or whatever the case may be. That sound has actually migrated into the 21st century, just with different arrangements, different sounds, maybe some different instruments here and there, but alive and well. Great stuff.
Yeah, you're right about the money. I feel sure about that. I do think, however, that a lot of these are becoming more popular because of the growth of jazz in educational establishments, and these larger courses put together rehearsal bands, which quite often as coursework now are expected to put out a CD or write a specific piece of work or so on. And interesting, just purely coincidental, you'd think we planned these things, wouldn't you? But that's two new Canadian big bands in the one show.
Yeah, it's the place to go,
obviously. Where else would you get that? Now, how about some straight-ahead, no-nonsense bop, reflecting the great quintets of the 50s and 60s? Here's trumpeter Josh Lawrence with a track from his latest release, Call Time, his fourth out on the Positone label. Definitely worth a listen. Here's Sam I Am. Yeah, a great swinging set from trumpeter Josh Lawrence and his quintet on the Positone label, who, like the Smoke Sessions releases, they're all great go-tos if you're looking for some swinging music to lift your spirits. All definitely playable in the car, those, particularly on a nice summer's evening. Along with Josh Lawrence on trumpet, we have the ever-present Positone team of bassist Boris Kozolov and the great pianist Art Hirahara, rounded out with the drummer Jason Chainman and saxophonist Willie Morris. Thanks to Positone for sending us a copy of that.
Terrific stuff, going back to the roots of Bop Africa, and the latest, or one of the latest, at least I think, from London-based sax player Xosha Cole. We missed him, unfortunately, at the London Jazz Festival last year. We had tickets to go out there. Just the way things panned out, there's always so much going on and just can't get round to everything, and you have to travel from A to B sometimes, so unfortunately we didn't actually get to his gig on this particular occasion, which I think was pretty much with this band, a whole gang of drummers celebrating his roots and also connecting with, I think, his cultural roots, with a sort of with the sounds of his forefathers and ancestors, sort of linking in with this whole thing of the roots of jazz coming from African music and such like, and linking the two, which he does very effectively on this album called IBG. So it's the drums with his sax playing out of a modern post-bop context, I suppose is the best way to put it. Anyway, enough from me. This is what it sounds like.
And the next composition is a work of a very, very talented young lady who has contributed numbers to our library. She's wife of pianist Paul Bley, Carla Bley, and she calls this piece Dance Class.
Oh, yes, nice little twofer there for you. Xosha Cole starting off on his album Ibiji, or Ibijai, I-B-E-J-J-I, his latest one, with, like I said, a host of African drummers featuring on that one, or hand drummers, I should say. Jason Brown, Adriano Adewale Atuana, who we actually heard there on Brazilian percussion, Azizi Africa Cole, Lekan Babariola, also playing on various other hand instruments, celebrating this link between jazz and the roots and his culture, and he speaks a lot about that and how he feels when he's playing and connecting back to his ancestors and such like. Followed by another one I picked up in the second-hand racks. You never go wrong in the second-hand racks. The George Russell Sextet, Things New, unissued concerts from 1960 and 64, and the one called Dance Class by, as he says, a young Carla Bley.
Plenty to dip into with George Russell's music, that's for sure. Well, that's about it for this week's show. We'll leave you with a wind-up, in the best sense of the word, a Russian band, LRK Trio. We actually saw them several years ago at the Brussels Jazz Marathon, as it was called then, and I've enjoyed all their subsequent releases. They say Russian names can be difficult to memorise and even harder to pronounce, which is why pianist Evgeny Lebedev, bassist Anton Revnyuk and drummer Ignat Kravtsov simply call themselves LRK Trio. Urban Dreamer was released back in 2018, and from it, here's Clockwork Doll. See you next week.
Be good.
Finally